All right, everyone, we're going to start our meeting of the Webster County Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll start with roll call. I am Margot Kniffel and I am here. Tyler Lane.
Here.
Anna Kelly.
Here.
Gary Nelson. Absent. Tommy Coleman.
Here.
Tommy Smith.
Here.
And Arlen Gorchowski. Thank you. Item 2, review and approval of the minutes from the November 14th, 2023 meeting. As everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes. And if you have and find no changes, if I have a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Arlen makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all those voting in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous vote. 603. All right. New business. This is a public hearing for the petition of Joseph and Lisa Stoneburner and Randy and Kathleen Stoneburner, an amendment to the official zoning atlas from A1 Ag Preservation to A2 Transitional Ag zoning district for more or less 9.85 acres of land located approximately 1/2 mile north of the intersection of 340th Street and Vassy Avenue on the east side of Vassy Avenue. Jeff, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and move to the PowerPoint, Allison. So as Margot had mentioned, this is a public hearing for this rezoning request. Staff has received no written or verbal comments in regards to this petition in for or against this. So as of date, so pull up the PowerPoint. There we go. Next slide. Yeah. So the top picture is a location map. This is the roughly 9.85 acres to be rezoned. As we go to the bottom photo. There we go. That's good. Thanks.
Yep.
So the bottom photo depicts a lot split that was recorded on June 19th of this year without the knowledge of the Planning and Zoning Department. So this split the 9.85 acres into 2 parcels. The parcel in red is outlined by Randy and Kathleen. That's 3.87 acres that has the single family residence and accessory structures, and that fronts Vassy Avenue. And the parcel that's outlined in yellow is now owned by Joseph and Lisa. And that's approximately 6 acres in size. And that's where they're proposing to build their residence. So when you do look at the area photo, you can see that the property is surrounded by agricultural productive lands. There's some to the north and there's obviously some to the south, but there's definitely wooded areas that are to the north and to the east of the property. And then the property, as you can see, is really just timberland. It doesn't really lend itself to agricultural. So yeah, moving on here. So reviewing our corn suitability ratio maps, we have a CSR rating of 30, between 30 and 31, which is significantly less than the 65, which is desirable for crop production under the current A1 zoning classification. The closest single family residence from this property is, I believe, over 1,300 feet away. And when you do look at this map, you can see that the lands to the east, it's a lot of timberland there. And when we reviewed this, staff reviewed this, we felt that, if this property was surrounded by productive agricultural lands with CSRs, 90 or 100 or 100 plus, it'd be difficult to get this rezoning. But the fact that we do have land that's abutting, that has a low CSR and really kind of warrants itself to an A2 designation, we are in support of this request to go ahead and change the zoning on this subject property and its close proximity to the A2 zoning district itself. So with that, so I go to the last slide. I believe that just gives our recommendation that we do support this request from A1 to Like I said, we have received no comments from the public. And we can just go ahead and turn it over from there and have a discussion with the planning and zoning commissioners. If there's something that the applicants want to add to this request, they can.
Yeah, actually, Jeff, I was just gonna go ahead and say, if you folks would like to speak on behalf of your application, please do. I thought it was an extremely thorough application. I think we spoke on the phone before, and, as far as your project, I like the project and what you're doing, but if you have anything that you'd like to say to the commission, please feel free.
We just appreciate your time. We're hoping to take the next step. So we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, the applicant really didn't want to go through this process. We looked at another alternative by doing the granny flat or guest house on the property, which allows them to go ahead and construct another single family residence, as long as it's all family. But they came back, and for some reason, and that's their choice, we didn't want to push it with them and say, and we backed off of that and said, okay, if you that's an option there, but this is also an option to go ahead and move forth with the rezoning. And they said to go ahead and move forth with this rezoning request. So, yeah.
Okay. So seeing that we have no other public comments and you haven't received anything, emails, nothing. Okay. So with no other public comments, we'll go ahead and open it up to the board.
I just want to show you one last slide, Margaret.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you go to the last slide? So, yeah, there we go. I just want to blow this up, and you can see, really to the east, you see the yellow is zoned A1, and the green is A2. So when you really look to the east, there's a lot of, and to the north also, there's a lot of vegetation there with low CSR value. So it's just not only that parcel, but it's possible, down the road it could lead itself to a small subdivision back there, but see. So it's possible. Anything's possible.
Everything's possible.
Everything's possible. So
I just wanted to ask real quick. Now this is what body of water is that? The Des Moines River that runs through here and that cut, or
That's just a creek.
just a creek? Okay. I'm not super familiar with that area, so I wasn't sure what
It's
that was.
mostly ravines and creeks.
Okay.
Going through that timber.
Okay.
So it doesn't make itself at all to
Okay.
a lot of valleys and there's a lot of very
Nothing.
deep drainage.
Looks like it.
Right behind our house.
It's rough. It's a rough walk.
But it does run down to the river, right down there at the bottom.
Down here.
The Des Moines River is south
Okay.
of that.
About a mile and a half away.
Okay. Can you get a bigger picture of this area of the county? Pull that up, please.
you have to go to Beacon.
I know
That's okay. We'll pull it up.
that was an awesome look too.
He says, we'll pull it up.
Just to get a perspective of the whole area. And I think when we spoke on the phone, while we were talking, I was actually on Beacon trying to find it and everything. But yeah, not being super familiar with the area. Is Beacon taking a moment to okay.
Yeah, I decide what it wants to do.
Now, in our conversations, one of the things that I know you guys said was that the neighbors, is it the neighbor then to the south that was
The
not
neighbor to the
interested?
south isn't interested in changing anything,
Okay,
and she lives out of state.
um,
But the neighbors that surround us, we're all interested in changing as well.
Okay.
That doesn't really affect the contiguous part unless you
Yeah.
make a C.
yeah.
What's the address to the one that's currently there?
3354 Passy.
I'm surprised that we didn't receive any comments from that landowner.
Yeah, the one to the south, I actually,
Did you have a
I
conversation?
had a conversation, it was 2 or 3 months ago, yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, they weren't, if I recall, they weren't interested in changing anything, they just wanted to continue their practice. I said, yeah, of course, we're not gonna, you have the right to farm and everything else, we're not looking at putting a major subdivision, they just want to build a house, so,
Yeah.
and subdivided, so it was really more or less kind of black and white. We didn't get into very many details at all.
Okay.
After that discussion, I thought, she may call back after she got her notice, but she never did. So obviously, yeah. So
In the conversations I've had with her, she's not willing to change anything, but she also gave us a like verbal blessing. Like, I hope you guys get to build,
Okay.
and I hope that my decision doesn't affect that.
I just have to wonder in your conversation with her, Jeff, do you feel that she grasped the whole concept of what the rezoning would mean? I mean, in our conversation, rezoning isn't going to change anything that the woman can do with her property.
yeah.
I mean,
it's
she's
not
going to be able
necessarily
to,
not going to necessarily change the value of the
yeah,
property
the
or
property value
or
isn't going
increase
to
your
change.
taxes or anything like that. And that's kind of the discussions I had with her too, So
Okay.
yeah, that was stuff that happened.
Did
So
she show any other concerns? Anything
No.
else she was concerned about other than I don't want to change my stuff?
no, I mean, don't, a concern, obviously, a legitimate concern. If there is a concern, it's, obviously more density in the area, more housing. And she didn't express that at all. So, like
Okay.
another house going up, so.
Well, I mean, and that's where I went to.
Yeah.
Right when he said that was she doesn't live in the area. What difference would density make to her?
Yeah.
She said something.
She didn't want a trailer park next to her property.
Okay, but
That's
doesn't
a whole-
she Texas, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not disparaging her. I mean, that's
No.
that's what led me to believe that maybe she isn't fully comprehending what the zoning change
She took a
would
very
be.
long time. She made the decision.
Yeah.
And I believe her husband also doesn't.
Okay,
So he knows what.
okay,
So I think that they went over quite a bit of things and they decided they wanted it to stay there.
and again, I commend you for not wanting to upset the neighbors. A lot of times things that come before this board, people don't care. They don't care whether they upset the neighbors, but I think it's very nice that you are trying to be a good neighbor, so.
No, yeah, I mean, we've been talking for 2 or 3 months here. And it's just like, informed and the more research you can do, the more people you can talk to around there, the better. He's
Yeah,
obviously
fair.
done that. He's done his homework, so that's a good thing. Some people
Now,
don't.
can you
so I
overlay
commend you for
zoning?
that, So
Please.
there's this one. Yeah.
Okay. So seeing in the map like this, board, does anybody have any thoughts or comments on it? I guess when I look at it from this perspective and I see how close we are to A2. And I go back to when the A1 and the A2 zones were put out, and it was just like, here, let's shade this area in. It wasn't really taken into consideration what this land actually is.
I think that's a very correct statement. You can tell that by
Yeah.
just kind of looking at that. Whether that's right or wrong or indifferent, we don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, well, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just saying
yeah.
that the process that company used to
Mhm.
look at our map and say, here, we think this should be A1, we think this should be A2. It's not like there was probably a lot of conversations, and I can't say for sure because I wasn't on the board at that particular time, that company that did the original plan. So, I mean, you and I talked earlier, and I asked you again about spot zoning, because I always talk about spot zoning. We're so close. We're so close to that.
We're so
A2.
close. You gotta look at the characteristics of that land, the
Yeah.
adjacent land where, you have ravines and it's wooded. Again, if they were surrounded by prime farmland, then I think you definitely have an argument for spot zoning. Because, you're right out there and yeah, they have some prime farmland around them, but to their benefit, they do have some lands with low CSR value. So again, like I said, I wouldn't support it if it was completely surrounded by, prime farmland. So,
I'm reverse.
but they have the right to go ahead and, like I said, put a granny flat in or a guest house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, yes, you have to look at that too. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we talk about that. I said there's no. Had property with an existing house on it. With a livable existing house.
That's interesting.
yeah, because I mean, places where I've worked in Florida and Minnesota, we did. I mean, I'm sure they were financed too, but I mean, it just could be the certain lender, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to get into their business or dealings, but I mean, I found it interesting too that they came out like that. It's the VA,
There's
yeah,
so many-
yeah, I get that. Yeah. I get it, yeah, so.
And in our conversations, that's one of the things we talked about was, obviously the ability to obtain a loan. And this isn't the first time that issue has come up with an A1 zoning versus an A2 zoning and somebody trying to get a loan and the bank's not wanting to loan money on it because it's not zoned appropriately. We in our changes that we've made to comprehensive plan and to our zoning issues are trying to encourage home building. We're trying to encourage the use of some of these older dilapidated building sites. And that to me is a contradiction. And unless you're willing to go around in every one of those little building sites, try to have to change it to an A2 zone. So that my question comes back to you, Jeff, is there some other designation or way we can?
I look at this as a unique case of VA.
Yeah.
And there's other loan products besides the VA that you approve, I'm sure.
But other loan products will say the same thing. They'll say, if you're not in the correct zoning, we're not going to loan you money.
Or if you're in a flood zone or whatever, they're not gonna load you
Yeah.
money. I mean, there's all kinds of, depends on what, that could happen. It happens,
But that's,
So-
like I said, that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do as a county and say, no, we encourage building, we encourage
Issues like that come up, yeah.
those kinds of things. And it just makes me wonder if there's something that we can put in that would make a bank or a loaning institution happy as opposed to spot zoning little areas around. So that's
Yeah.
something I'm throwing in Jeff's court that he can think about and see if that's.
I mean, sorry, he could, but I see it all the time with my septic stuff. There's so many properties that are exempt from having like a time of transfer, but the bank's gonna make them happy, even though they're state code exempt. One bank's gonna make them do it, another bank isn't. It's all based on what that lender or that underwriter is wanting to do. So
Yeah.
I don't know if changing something in our code to try or ordinance to try to make it less difficult would work.
No,
Yeah.
and whatever the lender wants, we'll prepare a letter to help them out, to help get the loan get through. Lots of times, we do address a non-conformity issue or some other issue, so,
And that's the issue is non-conformity.
Yeah.
And that's what the lending institutions don't want to deal with. They don't want to be lending money if you're not conforming. And if you think about in the county, all of these little former places that had houses on, we're saying you can build on 2 acres if, we're seeing like an old well or a fence line or whatever like that. That's fine for us to say that. But if a lending institution says, well, if you're not in the right zone, we're not going to do that. I'm just trying to think of some way that we can help our residents out and try to make that a little bit better process.
we're always
Now I'm making you
we're
think
always
about
here
that.
to help. No, trust me, I'm very pro development. I want to see things happen, so.
I was told by the lender, like, what lender you would go to, when it was combined, and there was, like, say, for example, we combined it and it was in their name. They're obviously not gonna give me a loan. They're gonna give me a loan.
Oh,
Yeah.
But they won't give him.
But he can't qualify for that kind of loan because they're retired.
Yeah. We don't
So
have- we
that
don't have the
was
means.
the granny flat issue.
And that, like I said, that brings us up to a good point because that's something we're allowing, but if people are, you know, if there's a issue, maybe you could have a conversation with some of the local lenders and just say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What do we need to change maybe within our ordinances that is going to make that an easier process, a more attractive process? Because these folks, you know, encouraged to come out and say, look, no, we want to make this change, and this is really, really what we want to do. How many people looked at it and their lender said, no, we're not going to do it, and said, well, okay, we're out. You know, and that's what they don't want to see. So, absolutely.
And two people that their children trying to build in Webster County, and they decided to go to another county because they didn't want them to go. And so that's kind of sad because, you know, you want to have that kind of, you want young people to be in the area. And so that Webster County can be productive.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's why in thinking about your case, that was, and after we spoke, that was one of the things that struck me is this hurdle everywhere? I mean, we're seeing it now. We're seeing this, especially in this case, because you brought it to our attention, and it makes me wonder where else have we not seen it? Where else have we not seen this problem? You know, there's always, I have a friend of a friend or whoever story, but you know, the Board of Supervisors is, I think, very pro, you know, bringing young people back and building, and that's why some of the changes that we've made, why we've made them. And that's why after I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe there's something that we're missing within our ordinance that would make lending institutions a little more pro-build.
Well, look at Story and Boone County. There's houses popping all over in those two counties.
Yeah.
And you know, they're getting loans on those houses because there's a lot of, I travel a lot of back roads. There's gravel roads. People put houses up in those counties. I wish I could see more of that here.
Yeah. So, and again, yeah, our ordinance is not set up for that. I mean, is there something within it? I mean, anything that you can think of, Jeff, that.
I was in Winnebago County today and saw 3 new houses going up all the country in Winnebago County alone. That's not a very big county. I wasn't down many roads in Winnebago County.
Laura, do you have any comments?
I was just going to add, you know me, I tend to be on the conservative side. Obviously, I like this project. It seems well suited and everything. But I just wanted to add the comment that I think, you know, I love the idea of growth and all of that, but I think there's, you know, I think we have to make sure that, just speaking to Arlen's comments, that we're growing responsibly in the country. We don't want to see this urban sprawl, essentially. We want to see people who want to come out and appreciate the country and, you know, appreciate it for all it is, not come here and go, man, your fields stink, you know, and things like that. So I think, you know, I agree with you, though, that we do need to find something. If zoning is an issue for some of this lending, then maybe there's some kind of happy middle ground here, you know, that maybe Jeff can do some research on.
Yeah, without getting too deep into the, you know, we had touched on the planned unit development, residential planned unit developments in the rural area. You know, we'll touch base on that probably this spring in March or April. We dive back into the comp plan. So, you know, like Laura had mentioned, to have that in our toolbox, so somebody wants to go ahead and if they find an attractive piece of land, they can go in there, put a road in, and carve out, you know, 4 or 5 lots, you know, in the rural area where, you know, there is timber around there, and they're separated from those agricultural uses. There is a buffer there, and yeah, there are spots in the country there or in this county that are attractive for that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so that's why we had that discussion, you know, a few months ago, and there's actually one of the goals and objectives is to look at that planning and development process and open those rural areas up for some residential growth. So, you know, we'll talk about that more. So,
Well, I wonder, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I'll just say, I wonder what the banks are actually looking at as far as a zoning, because I've had people call me on that property in Duncombe. It's just north of Duncombe. It's zoned agricultural, but for tax purposes, it's zoned commercial. And they were explaining to me how they couldn't get a loan to turn it into a house because it's zoned commercial for their taxes. Well, that's not us. That's how the assessors and whatnot do it. So there are some properties that, like I said, are zoned commercial. They can't build a house there, even though it's in A1, and on our standards, it's not commercial, but
Well, like you said, what are the banks looking at if they're pulling up information like we are, on Beacon, and they're looking at that? And, in this particular case, in you folks' case, I mean, I look at where your property is, and I mean, I see the potential to, take some of this, if you draw a broader stroke, it goes into A2.
A2 there.
Yeah, there's a lot more A2 there than there is A1. And like I said, unfortunately, when some of these maps were made, you can obviously see how they just kind of pixeled around it, or however you young people do these days. But I mean, when you really get down to look at the ground, and if we really, looked at this ground and said, is this A2? Is this A1? I'm sure you're going to find areas with some in A2 areas that are maybe going to have one or two parcels of A1 ground in them.
That too, yeah.
So
That too, yeah.
yeah, as close as this is, I mean, yeah, my concerns are always spot zoning. But I'm also concerned about setting that precedence of going forward. We're talking with you folks today. Who will we talk to next month? And what would be, you just mentioned before about if they were completely surrounded by A1 ground, that would then a ground for denial from your perspective, correct?
Yeah, but my recommendation, you guys would have to review that recommendation and formulate your recommendation, then move on to the board of supervisors to see what they would do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's where we kind of get stuck with, yes, we think the applicants are wonderful people and we like your project and everything, but going forward, we have to make sure that we have consistency throughout the county with everyone. So, but as close as that is to the A2, and that's so clearly not A1 ground.
Yeah, really should have been labeled A2 probably when they built.
I think that's a critical statement that you say it's not A1 ground. I mean,
It's not.
It's not. So that right there, that just tells you that it really should be zoned A2. There's nothing productive about it. So, yeah.
And Tommy is still zooming in, correct? Tommy, do you have any comments?
No, I agree. I think it is a unique situation in this one that as you look at it more, it probably should have been A2 from the beginning. So I have no issue. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, and for Kathleen and Randy, it looks like they're going to lose their road access. I think, and all I'm thinking is if that's something that they should think of maybe in the future, that if they do sell that parcel, there will have to be some type of easement or something down the road because that house will no longer have access.
And we would have access anyway, because there's plenty of ground there, but we reserve that easement across the southerly portion of the westerly portions of the property. And I can't remember the exact footage, but we did reserve it.
Like we talked about this one before. Maybe prior to Jeff coming here, I feel like I remember talking to you folks about this scenario and the fact that you needed so much frontage space, and I guess we never talked about it after that. We talked about just doing an easement and just allowing a little piece of easement, and it looks like you come up with a good solution for that. But yeah, talking to Jeff about it, yeah, easement could have been just a stripe up across the north end, and whether you actually use it for driving or not, but the frontage, in the situation was maybe the sticking point.
Yeah, the county engineer is not going to require two driveways.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the originals. When it's supposed to go, for each parcel. So I had that discussion with Jamie, and so that's a good thing, So you guys just, you report it. It's a legal thing between you guys. We're just looking out for it. That's all. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, the more I thought about it, I was thinking that was the issue once before was, making sure that the county engineer's office wasn't going to say, hey, you've got to have more than this and make changes that way. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all my comments. Anyone else have any other comments? Tommy, Laura? Any other additional comments?
No, I
No.
think I'm good.
I'm good also.
All right, that being said, we don't have a written out motion. So do I have a motion from anyone on the board to move forward with this zoning change from A1 to A2?
Make a motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion? Arlen seconds. All right. Jeff, would you like roll call vote on this?
Sure.
All right. We're going to have a roll call vote. Margot Knipple, I am voting yes. Tyler Lane,
Yes.
Laura Kelly,
Yes.
Gary Nelson is absent. Tommy Coleman,
Yes.
Tommy Smith.
Due to a conflict.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. Note that in the record, Tommy's abstaining. Arlen Gorchowski. Yes. All right.
So this will move forward to the Board of Supervisors, through the holidays, it'll be January 16th. I'll have a discussion with you guys, and let you know where that meeting's gonna be held. Right now, they've been doing meetings, gallery, and courthouse, and what comes over a calendar, so. It has the potential to go through 3 hearings. My goal is obviously to get you through by March, because I know you want to build this spring, so. Yep, and so forth, so. I'll touch base with you guys tomorrow morning, some things, and we'll go from there, so.
Now, if they hear any comments, and if any
Oh,
of the neighbors' comments, if anything else comes forward, it's still gonna go forward to the Board of Supervisors. And if, if she has or her husband has any comments, they're more than welcome to present that to the Board of Supervisors. But our recommendation at this time is to go forward with rezone.
So yeah, that'll be another public hearing, another newspaper ad, another round of mailings there for them. So, yeah. Get in touch with you guys tomorrow then, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for such a well thought out letter to the Board of Supervisors. I thought that was a very nice letter. And we said I feel like we're in the business of trying to help people, and like I said in our conversation, it's like, yeah, we're going to try and this just brings up for us some of the things that we need to look at. And I think maybe talking to some lending institutions and say, how can we make Webster County a little more attractive? Maybe we do need to make some changes to our ordinances. So we appreciate that from you. So, Jeff, do you have anything else?
Just a few things. So our next meeting, I'm planning on having it. We typically meet the second Tuesday of the month, but I'm going to push that towards the end of the month, which is going to be January 23rd. We're going to have a February and March meeting also. So at that January 23rd meeting, we'll do the reappointments for the appointments for chair and vice chair. That'll be on there. We're going to go over our permitting activities for 2023, not only building permits, but I also will go over her well permits and septic and all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to have a discussion on the administrative variances. So most likely, I'd like to adopt the administrative variance section for minor variances that can be handled administratively. Right now, the full-fledged variance is a public hearing. No different than this. You notify all the property owners within 500 feet. The applicant pays, I believe, a $400 or $500 application fee. The fee would be much less for administrative variance because it does not involve going through the whole process. So it's just administrative review and decision. So, and those are for your minor variances. Dimensional relief, looking at probably something that's 5% or less. A lot of the ordinances I see are 10 or 15%. That's a little excessive. This is the small stuff that we get, and it's just like, hey, let's It could be a Scrivener's error, it could be some little tiny error. Let's just get them reviewed, approved, and get them out of here so it doesn't hold up the closing. And that, you know, of that sort. So we'll have that discussion, and there'll be a cap, you know, like 5%, or not to exceed 5 feet or something like that. You know, because you're talking about possible setbacks, road frontage, stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. When you put that packet together, if you have any Board of Adjustment information from any meetings that we've had with the Board of Adjustment, and I don't think we have.
So the 4 years I've been here, we had one case. Was the Colville case? The Stop and Shop, is that what they call it down there? Yeah,
Okay.
she was building an addition, but it's hard to meet that criteria. That's why. But going back to 2010, 13, there were a number of variances being processed, and whether those met all the criteria or not, and we've got to get into that also. It's just, lots of times it's just, no, you don't meet it, get out of here. I hate to say that to people, but that's not like me, but it's like,
to say that to people like that.
yeah, but it's like, so, but
Well, the goal
you
is,
have certain situations that come up. So,
and the goal is to just have good ordinances in place so that you don't have to have a lot of Board of Adjustment.
and like I said, nowadays it's really and we've had discussed, planning is more on form as opposed to just the strict dimensional requirements. What's it going to look like in the end? Is it really going to cause any harm to anybody? Is it gonna, so, by the end of the day, so yeah, you want a standard out there that 99% of the people comply with for the most part, so we'll have more discussions on that. So
yeah,
that'll be a discussion in January. Then in February, we'll put together, if you guys are okay with that, then we'll move forward with the text amendment, and then that would go forward and get approved by March.
Okay.
So
just so everybody has on their calendars, January 23rd instead of.
yeah, January 23rd. And yeah.
Awesome. All right. If nobody has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Almost.
All right.
Everyone have a Merry Christmas and a
Can I have
Happy
a
New Year.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning, vote aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Too.